Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Jeff Fischer.
Jared Brandon.
And hey, I'm Todd Novak. Pleased to meet you. Glad you're here. We are escaping with the skin of our teeth here. We've had a huge technical snafu because we've upgraded our computers and unfortunately, M Audio has not upgraded their drivers for the USB interfaces. So that has made life very difficult just before this. But somehow we managed, so we'll do the best we can. It looks like a garage sale on the table.
Very common.
Yeah.
We sold everything and we bought all our own stuff back.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely like when you buy a wah pedal and then you sell it because you're like, man, I'm never going to use this. And then you go, damn, I need a wah pedal. And then you go buy it. And then you say, man, I'm never going to use this. And then you go buy it, sell it. And then you buy it again. I've done that. I'm on my third wah pedal. It's stupid. Anyways. We are excited to discuss pickups again. This is... I started to drift into Jeff Goldblum land a little bit there, and it was very fascinating. Last episode we had single coil 101. So this is Humbucker's 101, and Jared is going to be kind enough to initiate that conversation for us. But first, what is going on in your dude's music? I wish I could ask everybody out there that's listening, like, hey, Broseph in Japan, what happened in your music week? Hey, Mr. Man in Brazil, what did you do in your week? Hey, lady friend in Iceland, what did you do this week? Yeah. Man, that would be so cool. I wish we could do that. But we can't. It's just us. So, womp womp. But anyways, Jared.
Well, so I have an anonymous customer, and he called me up yesterday, and he's like, hey, man, I want a P90 sound to come out of a Firebird shell. And I said, okay, I'll figure it out.
Like so, Firebird, like a mini humbucker.
That's right.
Okay.
A Firebird mini humbucker. He
right.
said, I want it to look like that, but
right.
I want it to sound like a P90.
That's cool.
I said, give me a few days. I will design something and cut out some parts on my laser. And so this is going to be cool. You know, so the challenge is getting a P90 sound out of a shell that now I did some dimension comparison, and it's not really different, so I think I can do it. The only thing is it's going to be the cover thing. There's no alloy cover on a P90. It's all plastic. So the magnetic field, doesn't have to go through any type of metal alloy, and we'll talk about that a little later.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that I'm going to have a little trouble with. And there won't be any adjustable poles either. So that's new. I've never tried to do something like that. So I have, but not a P90. That's kind of random. Usually guys just buy a P90, if they want the P90 sound, but
right.
I think it's an issue of not wanting to modify your guitar body.
I love that idea though. I think that's really cool that you were able to A, facilitate that, but B, that someone actually is like, you know what, I don't want to mess this. I want to keep this integrity, but I've got a good idea. I think this can be done. I think a lot of times people just say, well, that probably can't be done, or I shouldn't do this because it might mess it up, like integrity of the. Granted, some guitars and stuff you really don't want to mess up. I understand that.
Yeah, you can just say, oh yeah, that I can do that easily. Stick a humbucker bobbin in there, but you have dimensional problems. A humbucker bobbin's not going to be big enough to facilitate all those winds, and you want to use close to the same type of wire as in size, so you could get the right sound out, So
interesting.
So yeah, that's kind of new in my world right now. I'm sorry, it's nothing different than pickups, but that's what I do all day. So that's what's happening.
But you got to play them too, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
So what's your rig that you're kind of favoring right now? I know that you have. Let me back this up. Jared's pretty new to the podcast, and what he does is he makes pickups. But this isn't the Jared Brandon pickup show. I will just say that. And we will have lots of other pickup builders and stuff, and we're not favoring his. Yeah. So it's just really topical as far as like what he's doing. That said, we've been to his shop. He's got quite a few rigs and quite a few guitars, obviously, to test all this stuff. So what are you playing there right now?
The easiest thing to turn on right now is my Black Star. So it's a 60 watt. It's got one 12-inch.
It's your standard like home combo.
Yeah,
like
it's
low,
a soloist.
like
It's called
maybe.
or something. Yeah. It's got a lot. It's a normal just amp. It's a great little combo amp. It sounds great. It's got a ISF button or a knob. And you can go all the way to the left, and it's American. Go all the way to the right, and it's more of a British sound.
Yeah.
So I really like that because you can, I like to test pickups out because you can get different sounds. And then I have two oranges that I'll use too, and I like to run stereo. But that's just a personal preference kind of deal. They're AC30s or ADs. I don't remember though. AD30s or they're 30 watts.
ACs are the Voxes.
Yeah, they're AD30s. Yeah, I think. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
They're great little amps. I like the sound of orange.
Yeah, and then you got the Marshall Stack.
Yeah, that's got a preamp out, but I just have to change the darn thing. That's all.
What guitar? So like, do you have a specific guitar that like you tend to go to just testing wise?
Lately, it's that Explorer that I bought.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's got a high gain output pickup in it right now. Yeah, it's kind of like a dirty finger output, but I've been playing that a lot and been messing with that.
Those feel so good. I love the weight distribution on those.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
I like it too. I love the neck. Everything about that guitar is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
cool.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Nice.
So
Hefe.
Yes, sir.
What's up, bro, dude?
Been on vacation, so haven't done much of anything the last week or so.
Mm-hmm.
But did go to a show last night.
And wait, what show?
King's X.
Oh, you went to King's X. Okay.
Yeah.
With Nathan and Matt. Yeah, right on.
But since you're talking about orange amplifiers.
Did you hear music?
I heard music. He was using Ty Tabar, however you say his last name. I probably screwed that one up. Was playing an orange amp, which I thought was interesting because he usually plays like an old. Well, I think most of his sound he got back in the old days was like a Trainer, solid state, something or other that had this crazy awesome tone.
Yeah, I haven't seen Trainers a lot lately.
Yeah, there's so many boutique amps that are taking the spotlight right now.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting that he was playing that. I was curious what kind of sound he would get out of it, and it did not sound like an orange at all. So he was running something crazy in the front end of that thing, which I couldn't see.
What?
Whoa!
Like, was it the combo head cabinet? What?
It was a
Rockford, or
I don't know exact model. Don't know.
Right.
It was a head with two cabs.
Okay.
So
side by side or stacked up and down?
Side by side.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But it was interesting. His tone was there, but it was definitely not orange sounding.
But he uses a crap ton of effects, right?
I'm not sure. His board looked pretty small from the side.
Yeah.
I didn't see the top of it, but from the sound of it, it's like he really boosted or really pushed the front end with like a lot of mid.
Yeah.
which was breaking up the amp in a different way, which I thought was really interesting.
Sound good? Or
yeah, I mean, it was good. It was not what I expected, though. Like, I was
Oh.
expecting the sound that you hear, and it was close, but it wasn't the same. It was definitely super gainy, super high gain, which he controls really well, of course, but
Oh, wow.
it was interesting.
that's cool.
Interesting show. Never saw him before.
Would you buy another ticket for him?
Yeah, I'd go back.
That's not a band we've heard a lot of in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that they are still kicking. They're
Yeah.
still kicking it out, and they still come out with new stuff, which I've not listened to in many,
Super
many
talented
years.
dudes.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they're old guys now, which
Yeah.
is it's cool that they're still doing it. They're still up there playing and having a good time. So
That's cool.
it was cool to watch.
Nice, man. Did you have a good view of the board? Could you pick out any?
Of his board,
Yeah.
I was only like 3 people back, so it wasn't crowded. I could have walked up there and looked at it, but it was whatever.
Yes.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was close. I mean, it was a tiny place. There's, I think, 160 people actually showed up.
Wow.
Which was pretty cool. It was in
It's so weird to think about.
A professional wrestling little outdoor building.
Really?
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
I don't know how this all got set up, but they have professional wrestling in this building, and then King's X. Another
Why
night.
not? Hey, we should play. Should get a gig there.
You probably could.
That'd be
You could
good.
play
Yeah.
while
That'd
they're
be
wrestling.
awesome.
That
Get
would
some
be
punk
great.
rock going in there.
George
Yeah.
Animal Steel visited our classroom.
Wait, they
one
weren't
time.
wrestling. Why they?
No
Okay.
wrestling going on.
Jeez. Well, I have been spending my time playing with a new pedal that I got. Well, it's not a new pedal. I think I made a pretty good score on Craigslist. I got a TC Hall of Fame, and it is in. I mean, it's in perfect condition. Extra cables and everything. I got it for $60.
Nice.
Cha-ching!
What's the Hall of Fame?
It's the reverb. It's their they scored with that reverb. It's a regular, I guess you could say, regular size pedal. It's probably actually a little bit thinner, just a touch, and it's got a great range of reverb settings. It's got a nice little switch, so you can have like there's just a lot of good stuff on it, and a small pedal. And considering how much reverbs are going for right now, it's like reverbs are crazy expensive. Boutique reverbs are like bonkers money, most of them. There's a lot of them that kind of hover just around the 125 area. And I like the idea of having those unique pedals, but I also there's areas that I would rather invest in, and reverb just wasn't one that I wanted to drop a whole bunch of dough on. My next one, though, that I really, really want, TC also makes a thing called a viscous vibe, and I want that thing bad. It's kind of a mix of like a vibe and a phaser, because I'm still trying to unlock my phaser issue.
I thought you got a phaser.
I did, and then I sold it like a week later.
Oh, you didn't tell us that, did you?
Yeah, because it was just like I couldn't. I want to be able to control the actual output.
I thought you
There's
found it.
Duration.
I thought you
and
found
there's
that.
feedback on. So okay, brief recap. A pedal phaser style number 1 is speed. That's it. That's an MXR 90, right? Now a lot of them have what they would call script setting, which would have been the old MXR setting, which is slightly different. It's a little less in your face, a little softer, and then that one has so like the MXR 100 is you get a couple different shapes, oscillation shapes, but it's still rate and feedback on those, or rate and oscillation shape. That's what it is. And I was just like, I just want one that lets me do that, but then let me control the mix. You know, yeah. I don't want 100% wet going into where I just click it and then all you hear is freaking phaser.
Right.
Like I want to blend it, and I love the idea of like a 10 or 15% blend of like a vibe, just some motion to the sound. I like that. So like I like playing along. I'm a big Oasis fan. I love Oasis. The entire library. I'm not a hit guy, and there's movement in Noel's playing, and so when I'm playing, like if I plug in and I'm kind of playing along with it, and I got my Sheraton too playing along, it's like right now it feels very, very dry, and I want it to have a little bit of movement. So I'm looking at TC Viscous Vibe, and I hope that doesn't just jack the prices up right there, because we're so financial. Anyways, so yeah, that's what I've been doing, but it's really nice hearing some of this, being able to play and saying, you know what, I've got a much wider range of reverb. My old reverb, I was just using the built-in reverb, and it's good, but
limited.
Yeah. Anyhow, it's getting hot in here. So anyways, all right, holy moly, time to learn about some humbuckers and crap.
Oh yeah.
So, we're calling this Humbucker 101 because we're going to touch on the early, like where did all this come from
and why,
up to where we're at, and we won't make it like having to try to read a wiki page. So, Jared, go.
Yeah, I don't want to be as dry as I was the last show, in my opinion. But
you need a wet knob.
That's right.
That's wow.
Woo. Whoa. Anyway, back to humbuckers.
That's still legal.
Oh, yeah, that is. Yeah, we have a friend Toledo that would do that too. Anyways, go ahead.
Toodly-doo. Okay, so back in the old days in the 50s, they were starting to build amps with more wattage, and with your single coil pickups. And what did they do? They made noise because of what? The 60 cycle hum. If you listen to the last episode, it kind of worked like an antenna. So with the louder amps, that would amplify that hum as well, and it was getting annoying. So
is that kind of like the hum we're hearing in the background of this recording?
What? You can imagine that's what it is, sure.
Sorry for all the hums.
There's okay.
Sorry,
so
keep going.
Yeah, we need to humbuck the hum in the recording, man. So Gibson told one of their employees, like, hey man, we need to come up with something that gets rid of this noise, and it's coming from the single coil. So Seth Lover,
wait, time out. So I think it's probably fair to say that we're talking about like single coils, like a Strata or Tele, something like
That's
that,
right.
right? Now, back then, we also we had smaller amps.
That's right.
Cranked louder.
Yep.
Right? We also did not have layered effects masking that hum.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
not.
you were playing clean as a whistle through an underpowered amp,
You're
cranked up. So that is going to be amplified way more so.
right.
Okay, carry on.
Surf. I mean, what was popular in the mid 50s? I don't even know.
Surf hadn't really
or
come
jazz, or was jazz still pretty?
Well, no,
hot
I mean
back
it was still like rock, like
country.
early rock, like think
early-
Buddy Holly.
then? Yeah. I need to go back and study my rock evolution. Elvis was what, late 50s, early 60s?
Yeah, but he wasn't. They weren't playing like guitar centric. I mean,
Right.
It was guitar was in the mix, but it wasn't.
It wasn't
like
the
guitar-centric.
centerpiece of rock and roll yet. But anyway, however, the amps were getting louder and bigger, so was the hum noise. And so Seth Lover, and I know you if you guys are into pickups at all, you know what that name, who that fella is, and he is credited to have invented the humbucker. And
Seth Lever worked for
Gibson,
right,
and he was known for his radio work, and Gibson actually concentrated on radios for a while too during the war for the cause or whatever. But anyway, Seth Lever figured out that if you took two coils and you had them out of phase with each other and ran them in series, well, that means that there's one start and one end, and it starts with one coil, and the end of the coils, the leads at the end of the turn, you hook those together, and you ended with the start of the next coil. So I'm sorry, I don't have a picture to show everybody. So you have an in series, so you're running a series of two coils, and they're out of phase because you're starting with a start, and then you're starting with the finish of the next series coil, and you're ending with the start.
So you're describing phase.
I am doing my best.
Okay.
So that cancels out the single cycle hum. There you go. And the magnet, the opposite magnetic field from the magnet are basically they're transferred through the slugs and screws in each coil, and the sound crossing the windings become out of phase and therefore canceled. The signal pickup by the poles is in phase, though. It's
so
really
slugs. When you're saying slugs, those are the little poles that are, the posts, slugs, poles, all the same thing.
That's right. And that's about as technical and deep as I want to get, so you guys don't fall asleep out there. But if you have that basic structure and that basic wiring, that's what makes a humbucker. You're bucking the hum.
The magnet in between?
The magnet in between.
Okay. And is that's the same kind of magnet that the posts are made of? Or is it different?
It's the same kind of magnet. You have a south and a north pole. That's what you need. And the south and north, the magnetic flux, the magnetic energy needs to.
Now, is your sound going to change? So essentially, we've got two single coil pickups that have been put next to each other horizontally. In between is a slab, like a magnet, like
bar.
So think of like like a stick of gum in between two single coil pickups.
That's one version, and a very common version, having the bar.
Yeah.
But basically, as long as you have a magnetic field of a north and south that's going up through these, alloys and these metals or whatever carries that magnetic field, and it's creating a magnetic energy, that's in the field of the strings, so the strings can disrupt that energy. That's a humbucker. Those elements that is what cancels out the hum. Is the way that structure is made.
Right. And so in very, very elementary terms, that's why a Les Paul sounds a little warmer, a little blurrier than a Tele, which can sound ice picky.
Right.
I mean, right?
Well, it's a darker tone because you've got there's a lot more that sound is going through.
It would be like if I double tracked you right now versus a single track. Right?
It'd be darker.
Right. And it'd be darker, and it would just be, there would be I wouldn't want to say a fuzz because we have fuzz effects, but there would be a subtle blur on it that made it sound fuller and less precise. So I have a question regarding that inner magnet. If you, and maybe you're going to get to this, but if there's a standard weight or rating on that magnet,
grade,
do people play with making that magnet more magnetic, less magnetic? What effect does that have on things?
That's a great question, and that's a really big deal. And that's something I didn't get to the last episode was magnets.
Yeah.
You can get different
Well,
grade
yeah,
magnets.
we spent some time on magnets.
A little bit, didn't we?
Yeah,
Towards the end.
We spent time on magnets.
Okay.
But it was a lot more technical.
Right. I think I wanted to get deeper, but anyway, there's different grades of magnets, and yeah, it does make a difference. There's your all nickel 5 is
okay. Sorry, I'm going to cut you off again real quick. Sorry. When we are talking about changing that magnet, before you get into what changes, what affects that change, okay, like what elements affect that change? When you change that magnet, what effect does it have on the pickup?
the strength. Some people want to argue this, but
I think Jeff does.
Or maybe not.
The magnet provides the magnetic field, right? It's the power. That's what the structure relies on to be able to. It powers the magnet. You have to have the magnetic field there for the strings to disrupt, to pick up the vibrations. I mean, it's got to be there. That you don't have magnetic field, you don't have sound.
Right.
So that's basically your power.
So help me understand. I'm playing the
weaker magnet, more of a darker sound.
Right. Okay.
The higher strength magnet, and it all depends. Is you're going to get a more higher pitch, shrilly sound.
Okay.
So.
So
that depends.
So put that into perspective of like, is a heavier magnet or a more powerful magnet something more along the lines of like a super distortion?
Yes, of course it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a lower power stick of gum magnet.
All nickel 2 slash.
Cool. Perfect. Now we're talking. Now we got it.
Yeah.
So like cream buckers or anything that's creamy in tone.
Oh yeah. Of course.
And actually, was it? I think it might have been on that pedal show. Oh, Jeff's not gonna.
I'm not going to do it.
He's not gonna do it for me. Hello. They were talking about. I think it was them. I don't know. I watch an awful lot of guitar stuff. So there's a misconception that like burst buckers are that higher output, but they're actually not. They're lower output.
They're lower output, and the reason they're called burst buckers is because they're basically a copy of the original Seth Lover design, blah, 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 that too. And people call those the guitars that generally had those humbuckers were called bursts.
Right.
Because of the finish,
right.
The standard burst.
Look at us uncovering history.
Whoa.
I like that.
History.
Yeah.
Unfolding.
And back in the old days, they actually called them sunbursts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now they just call them bursts. So
well, it gets confusing because there's sunbursts, there's tobacco bursts, there's,
Right.
Well, anyways.
I don't think Gibson should have even call. I think Gibson just call them regular humbuckers. They're the ones that came up with the darn thing anyway.
Right. It is very misleading because I think when you think of like a burst bucker, it's going to sound like modern rock.
Right. You're thinking, this is
not.
going to be really powerful and bursty. It's
Yeah.
going to burst with power.
Yeah. Okay, so that was very helpful to understand what exactly that magnet in between does. How does that magnet then affect the posts in the actual pickup?
Well, basically, the posts are just an extension. They're used as an extension of that magnet.
Gotcha.
Okay. They just harness that magnetic power and extend it out.
I have a full understanding of how a humbucker works now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now the posts have to be.
Oh boy, here we go.
They have to carry the magnetic field. So if you've got aluminum, like I'm going to change the tone of my pickup, and you stuck aluminum screws in or aluminum slugs, you'd have nothing because
Right,
they don't
conduct magnets.
Not very well. No, hardly at all. Or a brass or a nickel plate. It's got to be a mixture of alloys.
Right. So how big is that little magnet that sits in between? I'm just trying to get a mental picture of it can't be that big.
It's about 2.5 inches long.
Uh-huh.
I would say a half inch wide. And
is it about the thickness of a stick of gum? Like a Wrigley's?
No, it's
like a juicy fruit?
Maybe. It's been a while since I had a stick of gum. Man, juicy fruit sounds good, too. My grandparents always had gum, man.
Yeah. Grandmas like juicy fruit. I don't know why.
They always had the mega, the bulk packs. So it wasn't just one pack. It was like 5 packs.
Yeah.
But anyway, I miss their house. They don't really do that anymore. They have dentures, too.
The zebra stripe gum. That was the best.
Yeah. I hated that stuff.
Take about
gum ever.
Best.
I would say take about two
sticks of gum.
Yeah, I
would
say.
Okay, yeah,
and there's
like Wrigley's Double Mint now.
Yeah,
it's 2.
Right,
2 sticks in 1.
They Gibson actually just took the magnet out of their P90 and used that first, and then they made them a little thinner a little later on.
Interesting.
Yeah, they did a whole bunch of funny things and a lot of trial and error.
Okay, so now I've fully derailed you. So where?
I know, gosh darn it. So I know. Afraid to swear. I don't want to swear.
Yeah, keep us in Apple's good graces.
Yeah, my mommy might listen to that. I don't want to disappoint my mom.
She won't give you any more gum. No more gum for you.
Yeah. What the hell was I talking about?
We were talking about humbucker,
magnets. What does the magnet do, and what are the posts for, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about kind of a different humbucker other than the actual.
Hold on,
Seth
I
Weber.
have one more construction thing for you, real quick.
Please ask.
All right, gauge of wire. All right.
Right.
So we're talking now. We have 3 components. We've got the posts.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the metal, the magnet in between the 2 coils.
Right.
And we've got the wire.
Right.
Okay.
Same concept. I know what you're going to ask. How does that make sound and change the sound and all that kind of thing, right? Well, just like last week,
because when we were at your place, like you showed us some wire that literally we couldn't even see it.
Yeah, like the thinner the wire, the more resistance, and the more turns, length in a coil, the less range and higher frequencies. So you're going to have, if you took a humbucker, like the super distortion, let's talk about, DiMarzio. Great inventor, by the way. He deserves a lot of credit. And what he did was he started using thinner wire, but he uses a ceramic magnet, which is much different than Alnico. Mm-hmm. And the ceramics in the 50s was more of an economical, but he actually started using ceramic efficiently.
Right. And that's what most of the modern pickups that you're going to buy off a factory line are.
Yeah, your cheapies use a lot of ceramic because it still is more economical to use. It's cheaper. But like I said, DiMarzio uses them, and he actually put them to really good use. Gibson actually used them later on. But he used thinner wire, but that ceramic magnet has different frequency properties than Alnico, and the balance and the combination of the thinner wire and more impedance and that magnet, it's got a higher resonant peak. Then it results in the super humbucker sound. I mean, it's a real thick, wide sound. It's hard to
is that so essentially you're getting it's the thicker the wire, the maybe less impactful the sound, the less driven the sound,
less impedance. The thinner the wire, the more resistance. If you had thicker wire, you're going to have more of a. I mean, there's so many. It's so confusing. And
we're also talking about like microns of difference, right? I mean, maybe not microns.
You can,
I'm no doctor scientist.
It's all in structure. The super distortion's different because the magnet's actually higher in a different shape. Once you start getting different shapes of parts in a pickup, you're going to change the sound.
Yeah,
and it depends where the posts or magnets are in relation to each other on a humbucker. You can actually change the sound just by spreading those two coils apart from each other.
Okay.
Now, if you'll notice, an actual humbucker, just a regular everyday humbucker you get out of a Les Paul, the old humbucker I'm talking about that Seth Lever did, compare that to a mini humbucker. Now, a mini humbucker, the two coils are closer. Now, the magnetic properties actually are closer together where they come out in those coils because they're smaller. It's got to be more compact, so it's closer together, thinner sound.
Right.
Okay.
And it's also a shorter pickup, correct?
No, actually, they're a little bit taller. The bobbins are a little bit taller, and they're shorter in the. They're shorter in the aspect of spread.
Yes. The length of the pickup.
The length of the pickup
is shorter,
slightly shorter,
but the height is taller,
right?
Than a standard humbucker.
So you're changing the shape of the bobbin where the coils are. That has attributes to the tone as well and resonant peak.
Yeah.
So, daggone it, I'm off freaking track again. Okay, so you're going to get a different color of sound if you mess with the structure of the pickup. So compare those two, and if you really want to hear a huge difference, get a wide range humbucker and compare that to a mini humbucker. It's crazy.
Oh man, we haven't got any. We're getting there on that one. We'll get to wide range in a second.
Yeah, that's a whole different
back to your
animal.
Back to your deal.
Yeah, so there you have it. I mean, you change the shape of the pickup and you change the sound. You change the color of the sound. Now,
right.
Back to the history. For Gretsch, there was a guy named Ray Butts, Butts, as in butts. That's right. Butts. Yep. Yeah. He's credited for inventing the Filtertron.
The Filtertron.
That's right. The Filtertron has smaller, shorter coils. Kind of like it's built kind of like the mini humbucker. It's kind of in between the size of a mini and a humbucker, and a regular humbucker. If you want to,
And this came out like about roughly the same
time, and they were racing to get their patents
put
in place.
And that's where we get
the patent applied for deal.
Right.
Yeah. So Gibson first started putting their humbuckers in. I've got this written down because they started putting them in the console grand pedal steels and the electric harp. And so if you find one of those at a garage sale, pick one up because if it has a humbucker in it and it's a double cream, you get like $5,000 for the damn thing.
Holy moly!
Yeah, they go for big money.
It's time to go antique.
What is that called again?
What's that?
The pedal. You said the pedal?
Oh, it's a. Remember this, everybody out there. A console grand pedal steel guitar from Gibson.
Oh, a pedal steel guitar.
That's right. I'm sorry about that. Not just a pedal. It's a pedal steel and an electric harp.
Okay.
Steel. I think that's a steel guitar. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
But that's where they started distributing these pickups, these humbuckers.
Right. Because at the time, the Les Pauls were still rolling with P90s.
Right, the P90s, yeah. Now, the humbucker actually replaced the P90s.
Right. They didn't offer it as a either or.
That's right. They're like, hey man, we solved the 60 cycle thing. See you later, P90s. And then in the early 70s, Gibson started making their reissue guitars.
Yeah.
And came the P90 back again, And then ever since then, people love the old P90s.
Yeah.
Because you can get rid of a lot of that hum through, gates and crap like that.
So we touched on there are certain buzzwords in talking about humbuckers that I think either if you're a beginner guitar player or, even if you're well into it, a lot of times you're just like, I don't know, they're just called PAFs, but so at what point did it switch over from being PAFs to humbuckers? And now, if I want to do a custom build or something, or I wanted to replace the pickups in my Black Beauty, and I said, "Hey, can you build me a pair of PAFs?" What is the difference between the PAFs and a standard humbucker?
The PAF is basically an abbreviation word for patent applied for, for Seth Lover's invention, which is the first humbucker.
Right.
And
are the properties exactly the same?
Yeah, they're exactly the same.
So then
because the PAF, that's what it refers to. It's that pickup that Seth Lover designed.
Okay.
That's what PAF means.
So when we're talking about that pickup, are we talking about output? Is that what kind of identifies?
That's a lot of things, and that's a whole nother thing that we can get into for hours and hours.
Well, we don't have that.
We don't. So I want to make a shout out to a pickup maker named John Gundry, and he owns Throwback Pickups.
Okay.
He does a fantastic job.
That's John Gundry at Throwback Pickups.
That's right. He's a great guy, by the way. Real friendly. Talked on the phone. But he has a website, and he explains the history of PAFs and everything about the old PAFs.
Yep.
He has a number of the old winders. He has some of the original winders that Gibson used, and he has other winders that are the
They got to
same.
be what, getting up there in age? Can they still wind those things anymore?
No, of course they
You're
still
talking about
use
the
them,
people
but
or the
they're.
machines?
I mean, obviously they're modified to work now, and you're not going to get the same
Like a hip
the
replacement?
exact right, and you're not going to get the exact result because those machines were originally owned by. I don't think they were really made for pickup bobbins. I think phone companies use those.
Interesting.
The original Lisona that Gibson used was used. It was from a phone company.
Crazy.
Used it. Yeah, so Seymour Duncan has one of the original ones. I think John has possibly
So
one
some
of the
of those
original
older
Lisonas.
pickups kind
I
of have
don't
a
know.
ring to them, right? Hey.
Well, the thing was, those machines were so loose, and all the it's hard to explain
Anyways.
the mechanics of it were so
Yeah.
loose. The original PAF, when people say, "Oh man, that sounds like an original PAF,"
Yeah.
well, that's a bunch of hogwash because the original PAFs were so different from each other because the magnets, the Alnico magnet grade that they got back then, I don't think. Now I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this. I think the industry standard back then was really loose. So you get all these different types of magnet grades that Gibson used.
Yeah.
The metal grades, the metallurgy is another thing that people like to dig into when it comes to the original PAFs. There was different types of alloys made for the slugs and screws. So you have all these different, and then you have the windings too. People.
So that would give you a reason to say, so like, if you watch a video from say like Chicago Music Exchange or something, and they said, "Oh, we got this, gold top here, and this is one of the best sounding gold tops I've ever played," or something like that. You're like, I'm just saying, like, somebody who may not have an understanding of this would easily say, why is that any different than the one that was made right after it or before it? But what you're saying is the characteristics of the elements and how they were put together essentially create the voicings of those pickups, just like a violin. So if you go to a violin shop, which I actually just got through doing, and we got 8 violins lined up, and it was like, play each one.
Right.
And each one has a completely different voice. Now, the pickups may not be as apparent as the violins, but my daughter and I were doing that, and like, we just closed our eyes and listened. And man, as soon as we heard that, like the one, like it just gave my hair just stood up on end because I was like, oh my gosh, that was the voice that was talking to me. So I understand when someone picks up, a vintage Les Paul or something and plays it and says, oh my gosh, like this is the one. Granted, there's a combination of like, neck feel and stuff, but
that's why guys like to go to the guitar shop and test the instruments out.
Yeah.
Back then, now you just get on the computer, and if it looks good, you buy it.
Yeah.
But the instruments back then were, the manufacturing process was a lot more, I don't want to say sloppy, because it wasn't sloppy. It was just different. It wasn't, the standards on the quality standards and the tension on the wire and
then they weren't
all those little things. They weren't, as long as it looked good and worked, that it passed the test. And if the darn thing worked, put it in the guitar and get it out to the dealer. That's what they did back in the old days. And now everything is real tight and it's all the same and it's consistent.
Mass production. I mean, if you buy an Epiphone Les Paul,
right,
it is different, and there are some things. And that's probably
for the most part, they're pretty much all the same. I mean, and that's what you want.
You can pick up 3 different ones and they're going to sound identical.
You don't want to advertise something as one thing and have it sound like another, right?
But the beauty of getting something like that is that you're not. You can easily swap it out for a hand winder like yourself, or what's Wolf?
A Wolf Tone,
something like that. So you could get an Epi, a cheaper one, but make it actually sound like a proper,
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, there's
other things going into it.
The wood comes into play, and depending on what year Gibson you buy, that's a whole nother animal, man. So, just in a nutshell, the manufacturing times of the 50s and 60s are a lot different than now. So you're going to get different results and things like that. So back to the PAF pickup. Not all of them sound the same. Some sound better than others. So
okay, so if I'm
that's all a matter of opinion too, by the way.
Okay, so I'm Joe Consumer. I'm coming to you and I'm like, hey man, I got this. I got a Epiphone Les Paul, and I want. I'd really like to get a PA. I want PAFs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then you have choices.
Right. Okay. So if I said, "Oh, I want PAFs," or I said, "No, I just want a set of good hand-wound humbuckers," what's the difference? For
one thing, there's a lot of misconception out there that people think the original PAFs were hand wound. They were not. They were all machine wound.
What?
Yes, they were.
What?
Yes, they were.
Holy crap.
They were all machine wound. First on this Geo Stevens type 4 bobbins at a time thing that's similar to the machine that I use now. And then the Lee Sona was a little different. I think they did 3 at a time. And then
and to explain the hand wind part of that
is when you
just
have
holding the tension on it.
That's
right?
You're controlling the tension and the layering. That's hand winding.
Right.
Same as scatter winding.
It's not someone sitting there cranking it by hand.
That's right. Or having a bobbin in your hand and you're literally just winding it.
So it's machine controlled, constant tension, and
right. The layering, an auto traverse.
Right.
Yep.
So think of like an actual sewing machine. So it's basically like a sewing machine.
Kind of. And so, but the machines back then were so finicky.
Yeah.
And you had to make adjustments on the time. That's where you get the difference. That's where you get the inconsistency on the PAFs.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying to get to this nugget of. Are you saying that if I say, hey, I want a PAF, or if I say, hey, I want a hand-wound humbucker, you're in your head, like, are you like, there is no difference?
Well, there is.
Okay.
Get
me there.
there's when you hand wind and when you're winding and when you change the tension of the wire several times, or when you're hand winding and you're layering, you go back and forth naturally. But if you started doing that faster and you changed your pattern, that could create an anomaly, which could possibly change the timbre or the resonant peak of the pickup itself.
So
is it
the materials are the same,
right? It's just how you put it
the
together.
size of the bobbin is the same,
right?
The size of the center magnet or the grade.
So everything is the exact same except for machine wound and hand wound. Can you hear a big difference if you totally do it? So you can if it's really, really, really different. You'd have to have other attributes to.
So let me ask then, if I'm trying to get my head around like this myth of the PAF. Okay, so essentially, the only thing that's making the PAF is the anomaly in the winding. I mean, no, sorry, strike that. Is the non-anomaly in the winding? Because you're saying it was machine wound.
Yeah, they were. Now they're different machines.
Right.
There were 3 different machines that they used on these PA in the 50s.
Okay.
And John, like I said, John Gundry knows more about when they switched machines and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So please go check him out. But you had a separate machine that wound the slug side, and that was called I don't remember what it was called, but that looks more homemade than any other of the machines. So you had actually a different winder that's winding one coil and another winding there that's winding the the screw coil. So you have 2 different coils wound by 2 different machines.
Right.
That's a detail.
Yeah.
All the metal parts, like the steel parts, like the shoe, the spacer shoe that's beside the magnet that the screws go in, and let me just dumb it down. It's just all the parts that they used back then. They all contribute to the original PAF sound. The rarity of that pickup is sought after. I mean, it's sought after because of the rarity. There aren't that many of them made that way from.
So if I'm asking you to redo one, right? If I'm asking for a custom pickup, like from you or any other custom builder,
yeah. I mean,
I want a PAF style pickup,
yeah.
What are you going to do that's different than if I just say I want a set of your humbuckers?
What would I do that? Oh, well, if they said I just generally want a set of PAF pickups.
Yeah.
And I'll ask questions like, do you want them covered? Do you want them uncovered? Do you want them to sound hot or, like...
But you could do that to any humbucker.
Really? Yeah. Well, yeah. And if they don't have any preference at all...
Yeah.
They usually have a cover preference. But if they don't have a preference with the details, I'll make what I think sounds the best in my opinion.
Okay.
And people like that.
Right.
So that just goes to a default.
Is that different than a regular humbucker, though?
No, that's a regular humbucker.
Okay. So, what?
So a PAF is a humbucker.
Right. So I'm trying to get to like
so
it's sort of there's
difference.
Zero difference.
No, there is no difference.
So when someone says I want a PAF, in your head you're saying you really don't know what you're like. You're just saying a word, but you are asking for an actual humbucker.
When somebody says PAF correctly, they're referring to the original design.
Right.
So that means that it could be an Alnico 2, 3, 5.
Okay.
One of those 3 magnets.
Okay.
And
now we're getting somewhere.
Right. Gosh darn. Why is
that only
so
took
damn difficult?
20 minutes to get there, but we're good.
Well, you know,
I'm just kidding. Keep
we
going.
learned a lot of little key
I know,
points in
keep
between
going.
all the bullshit. So
See that? Now we actually have to strike. Now I got to go back and edit that. Doggone it.
You're allowed
damn
to
it.
say that, right?
I don't know if you can. Yeah, I don't know.
we
Yeah,
say
yeah,
shit?
you can. You can. What the heck? Go ahead.
okay. Anyway, sorry.
If Mark Americans,
Mark Maron says everything.
yeah,
So he
humongous shout out to that guy. I love that guy's show. Anyways, go back.
What's the name of his podcast? by the way?
WTF?
That's right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
So yeah, the PAF, that's an abbreviation of that of the characteristics of that original Seth Lover
Okay.
design.
So you're really talking about very, very minute differences that someone who truly, truly knows pickups would be asking for.
That's
But
right.
if a regular person who doesn't know the knowledge of that, but heard some guys on some podcast saying PAF's awesome, bro, and
Right.
he's like, well, dang, I better get PAFs, because that's what you do when you're a beginner guitar player. Like I'm going to share a real quick story. Okay, I had to crack my knuckles for this one, because
Down and dirty.
so I was hugely into Kim Thale. I learned him and Billy Duffy taught me how to play guitar. Okay, not personally, they're not aware of that, but they did. Anyways, so naturally, what do? You're like, well, what kind of guitar does he play? He's playing a Guild SG style. Well, I can't afford that, so I just played the guitar that I had. But I could maybe try to get the amp that he has. So I went into the music store. I actually went into the Carvin store in California. It was just close to my house. And I said, I'm looking for an amp. She's like, oh, what can I help you with? And I said, I want a Peony. And he's like, a what? And I said, a Peony, Peney. It's got the real angular. He's like,
Yeah.
I think you mean a Peavey. Okay, now I'm with a couple of my friends, and I'm about to lose massive face because now I sound like an idiot who doesn't know what he's talking about. So I said, nope, I'm pretty sure it's called a Peavey. And he said, and the guy was real cool. He understood, like, he's like, okay, I don't want to make this kid look like a jerk,
Right,
and he humored me. He's like, well, let's see if we have any of those. And we went back and I tried out an MPEG and then there was a PV. And he says, I don't think we have any of the Peonies, but you might want to try this one out. This is a pretty cool amp. And I ended up buying the amp. And he was just, I've always remembered, like, it was more important to me to not look stupid at, like 15 or 16 than it was to actually just cop to it and go, oh, yeah, man, I don't know. I'm just starting out. Anyways.
Well, it was spelled all wonky anyway.
It was hard
Jagged.
it was hard to read. So my point being that if I was that kid, okay, put me in those shoes again,
Right,
and I say, yeah, I want PAFs. I really don't know what I'm talking about. Probably. I mean, because a beginner guitarist is not going to know the difference between, generally speaking, is not going to know the difference between an Alnico 2, 3, or 4 grade magnet post.
Yeah.
Right? So when we're talking about PAFs versus humbuckers, it's really not a...
Yeah, the PAF just stands for the Seth Lover design, but a humbucker stands for any pickup that's structured to cancel 60 cycle hum.
Right.
So the humbucker is a broader range term used for, everything that falls under that category.
So here's my next question. Is Gibson the only one that's allowed to use the term PAF?
No, the only person allowed
Oh, man.
the only person allowed
There's
to
no
use
rules.
the term PAF would be DiMarzio because they trademarked that. They
No.
trademarked.
My head's going to explode.
That's
What
right.
the hell?
I don't want to. I DiMarzio has trademarked a lot of things.
They trademarked the thing that they didn't come up with?
That's called intellectual property.
Goodness sakes.
And
It's called marketing.
Yeah. Wow.
It's
Good
called.
on
It's called.
DeMarzio, I
They were
guess.
smart enough to do all this when we were little kids, and we didn't.
Right.
Yeah, we didn't know
Okay,
anything
so
about it.
let me catch my breath here. So if I go in to ask you for a PAF pickup, I think that's actually like the 8th time I've
I'll
said
know
that now.
exactly what
Then
you want.
say, oh, so you wanted a DeMarzio pickup. Is that what you're saying?
They basically trademarked the PAF to. They have a model that they built. Basically, you know what? I really don't want to.
Okay.
I really don't want to get out of sorts here and misquote DeMarzio at all.
Okay.
Because
We won't then.
they're very finicky and very careful about their trademarks.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
they're sensitive about that. so.
Right. There are people listening.
That's right.
All right. So point being, if you want a PAF, you're probably going to get what it sounds like just a humbucker, just
Right.
like any other
you're,
humbucker.
You're going to get an old Gibson style Les Paul humbucker. I mean,
Okay. And when we
that's-
say Gibson style, we're talking about output at that point? Or we're talking about
all the characteristics about the Seth Lover humbucker that he invented,
Okay.
and that has been in
were
guitars
those
ever since
typically those
1957.
are typically a lower output than just a standard humbucker
No.
off the shelf. No, I'm getting
No.
everything wrong.
The modern day
learning here.
humbucker
Yeah.
might be a smidge more hot than you have. You have
Obviously, there's different. You can get any.
there's
kind,
so
and
many
there's a
different
huge
kind of
range.
humbuckers.
Yeah,
There's a huge
I'm drawing
range.
big general.
But you wouldn't call it a PAF though. A lot of people do because, like you said, people don't really know the
Right.
true meaning of PAF.
Right.
So
So if you're getting something on Craigslist and somebody says it's got PAFs in it and it's more expensive, it's probably
you want to do your homework.
yeah.
Know
Just be careful.
exactly. Yeah,
Don't pay extra for PAF pickups unless they are
that's right.
like documented.
Well,
right.
yeah, you
Or
gotta
DeMarzio's.
really. Yeah, please beware if you go on eBay and you look up PA and you want to buy an original PAF. If you're paying less than $600 or $700 for an actual original humbucker from anywhere from 1957 to 1964, then it's probably not a real PAF, or it's broken. And in which then I would buy it and send it to me and I will repair it. Ching. Or anybody else
Yes.
that does that work.
Okay. I'm not going to say that word, the P word anymore.
So
PAF?
so if I walked in and asked you for a PAF pickup, what would you?
Well, what would I suggest? We could see a PAF all day. We just can't write it down and put it on a pickup
Okay.
because that's what DeMarzio does. That's their thing. They
Yeah.
trademarked PAF and they had
Okay.
every right to do that.
All right.
So
Gotcha. All right.
it was just a slang word, so that's
Yeah.
Nobody
but
owned
it's
it.
but it's a huge buzzword in the industry.
and why
It's
is
like-
it called PAF, everybody?
And maybe I shouldn't say the industry because
Yeah.
I'm not in the industry and Jeff's not in the industry. We're just players, but we're exposed to all the conversations that happen around that, and that's one
sure.
of those words that gets slung all over the place.
DeMarzio wants us to talk about PAF. The more we say it, the more happier they are, because then people look up PAF
If we
and
say
they
it three
say,
times, we'll
"Oh,
DeMarzio
look,
up
here's
there."
the DeMarzio PAF model. That's what I'll buy." Oh.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be nice.
Interesting.
They will thank us for this.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna ask some more questions
But where did PAF come from?
after
It's
this.
patent applied for.
Right.
Gibson stuck that on their pickups because they didn't have a patent number yet. So
Aha. So if you get a set that actually says,
patent applied for.
then you have real.
PAFs.
Aha.
Now, be careful. There are many, many, many copies out there, and I actually make a copy too. So please,
That's patent applied for.
that's right.
Oh,
So,
boy.
right, I have that decal on the back of my PAF.
But to be 100% clear, you are not doing that as a ruse.
No,
You're doing that when someone says, I want as legit of a copy as humanly
right.
possible.
People want it to look right under the hood, so to speak.
Right.
And
that's where people who are rebuilding
their reissue
fenders
Gibsons,
put the stickers on the neck and all that business.
Yeah. Well, like my aunt has this shell of a guitar because, her son took it apart years ago, and it happens to be a real 1959, burst or whatever. And this is just a hypothetical story, right? But I don't have the money to buy $10,000 pickups to put in a $125,000 guitar. So please,
that's a lot of
make me
zeros.
some copies. Yeah, they are worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what I do. It's for restoration purposes, and just for people just want it there. So everybody, please go on the internet, educate yourself if you're interested in the original ones, by the way, on what the decals are supposed to look like.
Right.
Don't get fooled.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Okay, that was good. Thanks. Next question, and we're Jeff. How are we on time?
About an hour.
Oof. Okay, I'm gonna make it quick. This is the other big lobby, not lobby like a hotel lobby or a lobbyist, but lob like a big thing.
I like it.
Okay, big fat question. Covered, uncovered.
Ooh, boy. Big argument. A lot of people like to say, hey, man, I can totally tell the difference between a covered pickup and an uncovered pickup.
Right. So in just very simplistic thinking, the idea that you would put something in that would come in between the strings and the thing that's supposed to be
magnetic field.
Right. So if you're putting something in between that magnetic field in like on paper with a crayon, that's like you're not going to get the same sound.
This is what I can logically believe in my head. Personally. The alloys that make up a cover are not magnetic. So they're not supposed to interfere with the magnetic properties. But they do.
No,
They do a little bit.
I don't know.
They do a little bit, but in my opinion, they do. And let me say that a fifth time.
Yeah.
In my opinion, they do a little bit, but it's not enough to. Well, some people say they can hear it with their ears, the difference.
Yeah.
With their ears, and some people say they can't hear the difference with their ears. So it's just a personal preference. If you think you can, then say you can. If you know you can't, just say, hey, I can't tell the difference. It's just a matter of can you really tell or not?
Nobody's wrong is
just
what you're saying.
take a blindfold
so
test.
The magnetic field
The magnetic
is
property.
not interrupted whatsoever by the cover.
Are all covers
They're not all the same alloys.
right? So
There's nickel, silver, there's copper.
So any type of metal probably would take on some form of magnification of some kind, unless it was plastic.
They will. Yeah, that's not gonna. I think the covers do. They do mess with magnetic properties slightly,
Just a touch.
But can you tell?
So when you
That's
say
something you
mess
have
it
to
up,
find out yourself.
in your experience, have you found like what property does it affect? Does it make it sound warmer, darker, brighter, thicker, fatter? Whatever.
I would think if it impedes the magnetic properties,
Yep.
then it would be warmer.
Okay.
Because when you think of impeding, you think of,
So you guys want to hear another awesome horror story?
Let's do it.
Guitar horror story. So I picked up. I mentioned this very early on in one of our earlier podcasts, but one of the first guitars that I bought was an '84 Gibson Studio.
Nice.
Weighed a ton.
Did it have the binding on the neck?
No.
Those are rare.
But that was So this was just it was studio. Anyways, great guitar, and until Todd, the guy who wants to change everything, got a hold of it. So what I ended up doing was I wanted a better sound, and I noticed that a couple players who were out there, Kim Thale, I think Slash at the time was also
coming,
and he was doing, he had the Zebra, right. And I was like, well, maybe I need those pickups to sound awesome,
Seymour Duncan,
right? And so I said, well, clearly the covered pickups that are originally on this guitar aren't doing the trick. I need something with more bite, right? I had no knowledge of what gave sound bite. I didn't know that I needed other things. Like, you might need a distortion pedal, not just the distortion that came on your crappy little amp. Yeah. All these things. So I'm jumping to conclusions and not really understanding. I mean, heck, early on, even earlier than this, I wanted to find out because I was listening to Black Sabbath, and I wanted to hear how they were getting the pinch harmonic, what I know now is a pinch harmonic. So I went into a music store, and I had read that actually that I heard on Van Halen, and I was like, I found out he uses a flanger, so I'm all, I think I need a flanger.
Must be a flanger.
Must be a flanger. And so he says, yeah, okay, well, what kind of sound are you trying to go? And I'm like, that like when and so here I am
it's
again.
Like, yeah, here's a flanger, $150.
Trying to explain this thing. And he's like, well, yeah, okay, well, we'll hook that up. And then he starts playing before he kicked on the flanger, and he hit a pinch harmonic. I was like, that's it. And he's like, oh man, you don't need a pedal for that. Like, you just do this. And he showed me, and I was like, all the secrets have been unlocked.
Oh man,
it's an amazing moment when those things happen.
It is, but it just goes to show you, like, I didn't have anybody to ask.
Right.
There weren't podcasts, there weren't videos out there.
I mean,
There's no way to learn that.
My dad played guitar all his life, and in that around the 80s and 90s when I started playing. I'm sorry about that. And when I started playing, I had to discover all that stuff myself as well. Because, I mean, Dad never played Black Sabbath or anything heavy like that.
Yeah.
It was always just plug straight into the amp and a little bit of reverb, and your lead was your lead. That was it. That was the mind-blowing lead part. It was just the bridge.
What I miss about the modern day music store. Because back in the day, you used to go sit in the music store, and there's always 5 or 6 guys sitting around the front just wailing and playing, and you would go there, and that was like the first lesson you would do. You'd go and sit and watch these guys play.
Oh yeah. And
you'd learn so much just by watching.
Yeah.
Now going to Guitar Center, it's not fun.
No.
You got the guy that's doing the heavy metal shredding in the background all the time, and it's the same song.
I will have to say that our local musical round, there's a fellow that he spends as much time, every single time I go in there, he's sitting on the counter playing something really cool. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah, it's not about that though. It's just the fact that people used to go there to hang out.
Yeah, but which was kind of like with the jam that he's kind of giving off.
There's a place like that in my hometown that people still go there and hang out. They don't play as much anymore.
Yeah.
But it's like a little club. All the Fremont, Ohio. Shout out to you, baby. When we go to the guitar shop there in Fremont, the one on Ohio Avenue, the one that's been there since the 70s, Al Snyder opened up, and Dustin now runs it. We go in there and we just, I don't know, we talk about old times, we talk about current things. It's like going to the barber shop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we all know each other. We've known each other for 20, 30 years. I don't know. It's just our element. It's a guy thing. It's just, it's so great being among those. I guess I'm one of those guys now,
Yeah.
When a young kid comes in and he hears us talking about guitars or whatever, or if we're testing something out, they're watching.
Yeah.
So
there's
still those places left, just not very many of them,
think
unfortunately.
if it wasn't for that kind of place, legitimately, we wouldn't have had the Marshall amplifier. Because Jim Marshall's store, that's where Townsend and all the little the dudes hung out, And he was like, "Hey guys, why don't you try this out?" And like that's how that whole thing started. That's crazy to think about. Anyways, back to my pickups. So I decided I took it to a local shop that only did mods and repairs. There was like 2 guys in this weird little office building, and I said, "I want to put these pickups instead of these pickups." And he looked at me like as square as he could, like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I had gone to another store and picked up these used pickups that were mismatched. I had no clue what I was doing. One of which was a DiMarzio.
Whoa.
And one was just some no-name thing. And I got these used pickups, and I got them for a good price.
Right.
And I had them installed in my actual Les Paul. And then I thought, well, I don't need these old pickups anymore. Chuck. I threw them away.
Did it sound better to you? Or
Oh, it was way more alive. I will just say that.
When you said Chuck, throw them away, you just threw them in a garbage can?
No, I let him have them. He's like, here's your old pickups. And I said, oh, I don't want those. He goes, are you sure? Again.
So I
gave him the pickups.
1984, they're not, they don't command a huge...
No, but they were original to the guitar.
Yeah.
So then when I turned around to sell it, when I finally realized these pickups sound terrible after, a lot of years, I was like, well, what was I thinking? So I for some reason I thought I still have those pickups somewhere. And I didn't. I left them at the store. But then I was like, well, no problem. I'll just put ones that are comparable to that. What the holy expensive. So then I was like, I'm just going to get rid of the guitar.
It's funny because...
and I traded it for my Telecaster.
Those old pickups, they hold their value, and they do appreciate value over time.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I found comparable era pairs, and they were really expensive. And I wasn't really... Because I knew I wanted to get rid of the guitar. I wanted to trade it out. I just needed to move it on.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's the story.
Guitar.
So anyways, when it comes to covered versus uncovered, it's completely, almost totally an aesthetic preference. Yeah?
Yeah, and you'll
Fair to
always
say?
get an argument there. Somebody will always, argue with you about that. And if somebody starts that argument with me, I just say, oh,
who's going to do that? You're like 8 feet tall, dude.
Right. But if it's over the phone or via Facebook or some crap like that, I'll just say, oh, man, you're right. What was I thinking? And I'll move on to something else. I don't have time to argue about stuff like that.
Okay, last one. So I'm seeing an awful lot of like the gold foil kind of style.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about that. So it's just purely aesthetic.
That pretty much is, because unless it's a really
real gold,
thick gold, 24 karat gold foiled. Yeah, gold is one of the best conductors of electricity.
Right. So when we're saying gold foil,
right? I mean,
is
real
it actually
thin
gold foil? Is it gold plated foil? Is it gold colored foil?
probably plated and it's not real gold.
Okay.
Who knows,
Would be
man?
the
That
best.
the original foil, where'd it come from? Japan or China or something?
I don't know.
I don't know, man. I mean,
Came from Reynolds.
I guess if it was kind of magnetic or had some sort of,
But-
I don't know.
But probably not, because
A thicker cover is going to have more effect than that would.
Yeah.
Unless
Okay, so just aesthetic. Just throwing it out there for
Pretty
anybody
much.
listening who's like, what about the gold foil
Gold
pickups?
foil,
I
yeah.
really like gold foil pickups. Oh man, so much. We could still talk about this for another hour, but we don't want to do that right now. But we still have P90 101 coming up.
That's right.
And we've got like the grab bag of like, well, what about these crazy pickups and stuff? So we got more pickup talk, but we're gonna get interviews in between these episodes, so that's good. Oh man,
You know what would be nice to add to that next pickup
What?
maybe is innovation in pickup.
Ooh,
or
yeah,
future innovation, because it seems like such a
archaic.
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Like, has anybody progressed this art? Or you can't. It's
Well, aside from actives,
yeah.
but
Jeff Lace has.
Yeah.
that'll be in the
let's
grab
hold
bag.
that. Let's hold
Yeah.
that.
Okay, cool. Wow, that was fun. I love talking about this stuff. Yippee. Okay. So our top 4 is appropriately humbucker style of choice.
Yes.
And largely this
Aesthetic
comes down to
style.
an aesthetic kind of thing, but whatever. You make those choices. And that's what top 4 is about, the choices. Jared, do it.
This is very difficult. There are many versions.
You have to pick one off the table right now. You got covered. You got an
if
uncovered set.
If I was stranded on an
you
island.
got a zebra set. You got and by zebra I just mean the black and the cream.
What I would want if I
Gold foil.
right if I were stranded on Humbucker Island and I
Right.
had to stick with only one humbucker for the rest of my life, it just has to be the old standard Seth Lover PAF. I mean, I came close to saying wide range today
Right.
because it's got a thicker sound.
We're going to talk about wide range in the grab bag because it is
It's
a bit of an
definitely
anomaly.
grab baggy.
Yeah.
But we're not
Thing.
talking about sound. This is aesthetic.
Even
Yeah.
aesthetics, yeah, that
Okay.
too. I mean,
I'm
it's
with you
gotta
on
be
that. My next guitar is going to have that.
as
Anyways,
far as color.
no, covered, uncovered, and uncovered zebra or gold
You
foil.
know what?
White.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it'd have to be an old, worn down nickel cover.
Okay. All right.
It doesn't matter what color the bobbins are underneath. I don't care.
Okay.
Just a nice worn down nickel cover on that plain old Seth Lover design humbucker.
Right. Gotcha.
That's it. That's,
Okay. I like that. That's a
I'm
good choice for you.
satisfied. Yeah. That's it.
Jefe.
Oh man, I do not have a preference necessarily.
You have to pick a pair off the table tonight.
It really all comes down to the guitar that it's going on and the aesthetic of the guitar to me, since it's going to be an aesthetic choice. So I do like the old style. I never owned one, but I do like that style if you have a certain type of guitar,
Yeah.
which I do not own.
We got to fix that, my friend.
Maybe we will.
Yeah.
Maybe we will.
I love a worn gold.
That's an awesome choice.
Yeah, man.
Why didn't I think of that?
I don't know.
Because on each end you have that. Actually, gold is plated over the nickel.
Yeah.
So first you wear down the gold, and then
Yeah.
you see that nickel.
Uh-huh. And then you get the
that's such a
string
good
striation running across
yeah,
it.
that's right.
I like that action.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I like that better than what I originally said. Dang
It's
it.
okay. There's room for everything.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. I just totally Matt, the Wine About It guy on BuzzFeed. That's his thing. Hey everybody, and he gets all drunk. It's great. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. And we are about out
Of time.
What do PAF stand for? Well, that wraps it up for these knobs. Join us on Facebook on our group at facebook.com/groups/guitar knobs and on Twitter at guitar_knobs. We're also on Instagram at guitar knobs and on our website, theguitarknobs.com.